Okay, so let's jump into something that I think every sales leader is probably thinking about at night.
Keeps them up at night, yeah.
Yeah. Employee turnover,
Yeah.
right? And all the costs associated with that.
Huge.
Yeah, and so much of the conversation can get stuck around salary and perks and things.
Right.
But we're going to look at something that's often overlooked, and that's emotional intelligence, or EI.
You know, it's so interesting how often hard sales skills are what everyone thinks about when they're recruiting. But the Sales Experts, a global sales recruitment company, they highlight EI as like the real key.
And they have a great article about this, and it's not just some vague self-help concept.
Right.
They really dig into the how
Yeah.
and how EI can really impact sales success.
Exactly.
So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a deep dive into these insights, particularly for sales leaders, hiring managers, and executives.
Perfect.
So the first point that the article makes that I think is so interesting is that enhanced communication and relationship building is really where EI shines.
For sure, emotionally intelligent salespeople aren't just pitching, they're connecting.
It's not just about closing deals.
Right.
It's about building trust and loyalty over time.
Absolutely. The sales experts highlight how emotionally intelligent salespeople use active listening to really understand clients' motivations.
So it's like they can tailor their communication and it resonates more with the client.
And they address the client's needs more effectively.
I thought the example in the article was so interesting.
Oh, yeah.
If you think about dealing with a frustrated customer, for instance,
Yeah.
someone with high EI can really stay calm and hear what the client is saying without getting defensive.
Yeah.
And then respond in a way that de-escalates the situation.
Right.
And that turns a potential loss into a chance to build even stronger trust.
You're showcasing your empathy and your problem-solving skills.
Yeah.
And those are really at the core of EI, and that leads to those repeat customers and long-term relationships that you want.
It's like they're not selling a product, they're selling an experience.
Yeah.
An interaction built on a genuine connection.
It's not just about what you sell, it's about how you sell it.
Right.
And that's where EI really makes the difference.
Okay, so we've talked about how it can help salespeople build relationships, but what about when things get a little tough inside a team?
Well, that brings us to the sales expert's next point, which is conflict resolution and collaboration.
Yeah,
Conflict is just inevitable, especially in sales.
especially in a fast-paced sales environment.
Right, but emotionally intelligent people handle conflict so differently.
And how's that?
They have that self-awareness to understand their own triggers, and they also can recognize how others are feeling.
So they can kind of see it coming.
Almost, they can approach conflict constructively and focus on the solution and not let emotions take over.
So instead of it turning into an argument,
Shouting match?
it can be a productive discussion that's really focused on finding the best way forward.
Now think about that on your sales team.
Yeah.
A team that can navigate those conflicts effectively where everyone feels heard and respected.
It's got to be a more productive team, right?
It's a team that can collaborate, share ideas openly, and just perform at a higher level.
So it's like creating that cohesive, supportive environment
Totally.
where everybody can really do their best work. And that, of course, leads to better outcomes.
That's the power of EI. It's about creating that positive work environment where people feel valued.
Okay, so we've seen how EI can help salespeople excel and teams work better together. But what about leadership?
Well, the sales experts are very clear about this. They say that emotional intelligence is a defining trait of a good sales leader.
And, we always hear about these inspirational leaders, but is that what they're talking about?
That's part of it, but think about some of the best sales leaders that you've worked with.
Yeah.
They probably had a high degree of emotional intelligence. They weren't just barking orders, they were connecting with their teams.
So they're making people feel seen and valued.
Right. They understood their team's needs, they recognized achievements, provided support, and created environments where people felt empowered to contribute.
Yeah. And I think that's something that our listeners who are building and leading sales teams, that's a big takeaway for them.
It is. It's not just about hiring superstars. It's about this quality that a lot of people overlook.
Yeah.
And that can really determine whether a team is successful or not.
So you're not just hiring somebody to come in and sell. You're hiring somebody to come in and be a part of your team.
You hit the nail on the head. It's recognizing that EI is not just a soft skill. It's a driver of success for the whole organization.
And, we're living in a world now where employer retention is top of mind for so many businesses.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how EI plays into that, especially in sales, where turnover can be so costly.
It's a great question, and it's something that the sales experts address. They found a strong connection between emotional intelligence and higher retention rates.
Well, that's interesting. Why do you think that is?
It comes down to the environment.
Yeah.
When employees feel understood and valued, when they feel like they belong,
They want to stay?
they're more likely to be satisfied with their jobs and committed to the organization.
Yeah, people want to work in a place where they feel appreciated
For sure.
and like they're contributing to something that's meaningful.
Emotionally intelligent leaders create that environment.
Yeah.
They encourage feedback and prioritize the well-being of their team.
And let's be realistic, employee turnover in sales, it costs a lot of money.
So much money.
You think about the time and resources that are invested in recruiting onboarding training.
Yeah, and the disruption to client relationships.
It's huge.
It's huge.
So focusing on emotional intelligence during the recruitment process is an investment.
It's a strategic investment.
Yeah.
It's about getting top talent, reducing those turnover costs, and maximizing your sales success.
It's not just about finding people that are talented at sales. It's about finding people that will work well in your environment.
Exactly. And it's about recognizing that building a sales team is about more than just skills and experience.
Right.
It's about finding people with that emotional intelligence to build relationships and navigate challenges and contribute to a thriving team.
We've covered so much ground today.
We have.
We've explored how emotional intelligence impacts communication, conflict resolution, leadership, and even retention.
We have.
But the question is, how do we actually put these insights into practice?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, how do we actually find those emotionally intelligent candidates when we're going through the recruitment process?
That is what we're going to tackle in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned because we're going to explore some practical strategies for assessing emotional intelligence, and the sales experts have some great insights on how to make this a cornerstone of your hiring process.
Awesome.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with some really actionable advice to help you build a more emotionally intelligent and successful sales team.
Love it. Welcome back. We've been talking about the importance of emotional intelligence in building a successful sales team.
And now we want to get practical.
Exactly.
So we know EI is key, but how do we spot it when we're recruiting new people? It's not always on the resume.
Right. It's not something you can just see,
Yeah.
And a lot of times those traditional interview questions don't really get at it.
Right. They're just kind of surface level.
The sales experts recommend using behavioral interview questions.
So instead of asking, like, what would you do in this situation?
Hypotheticals, yeah.
You're actually asking them to talk about real experiences.
Past experiences, exactly.
Like, tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult client.
How did you handle it?
Yeah. And their response can really tell you a lot about their emotional intelligence.
So much. Yeah.
Did they get defensive? Or did they show empathy? Did they listen and really try to see the situation from the client's point of view?
Were they able to come up with a solution that worked for everybody?
That gives you so much insight.
It's not just about what they did, it's how they think about it now.
Oh, interesting.
Did they learn from the experience?
Right.
Did they get why emotional intelligence is important in those tough situations?
So it's really a gauge of their self-awareness.
Exactly.
And you know how they're able to learn and grow from those situations?
You don't want somebody who's never made a mistake. You want somebody who can recognize it and move forward.
Right.
The sales experts also talk about using situational judgment tests or role-playing.
Oh, so you're putting them in a situation and seeing how they react?
A simulated sales environment.
Like a little test drive.
Exactly. You can really see how they handle the pressure. Do they adapt to different personalities? Can they stay focused when things get tough?
Yeah, it's a lot more revealing than just asking them questions.
For sure. And I bet it helps the candidates, too.
Oh, yeah. Get a better sense of the company.
Hey, see if it's a good fit.
Another important point is that the sales experts really stress the importance of training your hiring managers
Yes.
to assess emotional intelligence.
It's not just about adding a few questions.
Right. You got to know what you're looking for.
Exactly. You need to know what the signs of high EI are, how to ask the right questions.
How to interpret what you're seeing and hearing.
Exactly. It's like giving them a new set of skills.
Yeah, make emotional intelligence a key part of your hiring process right from the beginning.
Absolutely. And if you want a team of emotionally intelligent salespeople,
You got to have emotionally intelligent people doing the hiring.
it just makes sense.
Now, I'm curious, is it about finding candidates who are perfect in every area of EI?
Well, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Everybody has strengths and weaknesses.
It's about finding the right balance.
Yeah, it's about finding people who have a solid foundation and then giving them the support they need to grow.
because emotional intelligence isn't fixed, right?
No, it can be developed over time.
So even if somebody doesn't have it all right now,
They can learn.
they can learn. And if they're open to that, then they could be a great addition to the team.
It's about seeing their potential.
This brings up another interesting point: fostering a culture of EI.
Within the whole sales organization.
So we're not just hiring for it.
We're living it.
We're creating an environment where it can thrive.
If you want your team to build those relationships, handle conflict well, and lead with empathy,
You got to create a workplace that values those things.
you gotta walk the talk.
Lead by example.
Exactly. Encourage open communication, feedback opportunities for growth.
Celebrate the people who are demonstrating emotional intelligence.
Make it part of everything you do.
And then it impacts your communication, your collaboration.
It can really boost your sales success.
How it comes back around.
It creates this ripple effect. It's not just about individual performance. It's about the whole team, the clients, the business.
So we've explored assessing emotional intelligence during the recruitment process. But what about for people who already have established teams?
That's a great question, and it's never too late to cultivate EI within your existing team.
So it's not too late for those of us who already have our teams in place.
Not at all. Remember we were saying that emotional intelligence is a skill,
Right.
and any skill can be developed.
I can learn it.
You can learn it. So even if you didn't focus on it when you were hiring, there are things you can do to help your team.
So it's like professional development.
It is ongoing development, but for EI, I love that.
Think about workshops, training programs, maybe even bring in a coach.
Oh, yeah.
The Sales Experts has some good resources on this.
I can just imagine, doing some team building exercises.
Yeah?
Focused on communication and empathy.
Those would be great.
It could be fun and beneficial.
And just talking about it,
Yeah.
having open conversations with your team about emotional intelligence,
So everybody's on the same page.
encourage them to think about their strengths and weaknesses.
Share experiences, learn from each other,
Create a safe space for those conversations.
where it's okay to be vulnerable.
That's where the growth happens.
That's so important. And here's what I think is really interesting. As you start prioritizing emotional intelligence on your sales team,
Yeah,
do you think there's a ripple effect throughout the company?
I do. I think it can spread to other departments.
Other people see it and they want to do it too.
And then suddenly the whole company culture starts to shift.
It becomes part of who you are. When emotional intelligence is a shared value, it can transform how your organization operates.
Communication gets better. Relationships are stronger.
It's a more positive, productive work environment for everyone.
And it's not just about sales at that point.
It's about a better workplace.
We've covered so much today.
I know, it's been great.
But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to really think about.
Okay.
How can you, as a sales leader, hiring manager, or executive, how can you champion emotional intelligence in your organization?
Yeah,
How could you make it a core value that influences every decision you make?
that's a great question, and it's something that we should all be asking ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about putting this into practice.
Yeah.
Embracing emotional intelligence as a force for good.
To build those stronger teams, better relationships, and really find lasting success in the world of sales.
I love that.
And remember, the sales experts have so many great resources to help you along the way.
So many resources.
So go out there, embrace emotional intelligence, and watch as your sales teams reach new heights.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
That's it for our deep dive into emotional intelligence. Thanks for joining us.